Hi, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. We will uh, we will just wait for some time because we are trying to get into live stream, but that is not happening. Something is
Okay. Okay.
uh, just hold for few time, then we'll
Yeah.
start.
Okay. Okay, brother.
Okay, sir. Sure.
Bhakti, Bhakti.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, yes. We will just wait for 3 4 minutes because then people also will join. Huh?
Yes, sir. Noted.
Professor, can we start?
Bhakti?
Yes, sir. Am I
Uh,
audible, sir?
yes, you start.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I take this opportunity to introduce our today's speaker, who has almost 1.5 decades of experience in business development and innovation, who is an engineer by profession and entrepreneur by passion, Sri Ramchandra Prabhu Salgaonkar. Mr. Ramchandra has received his bachelor's degree in engineering from Goa University in the year 2005 and postgraduate diploma in management from Goa Institute of Management, GIM, in the year 2014. Apart from this, Mr. Ramchandra has also done a faculty development program from Indian Institute of Management, Kerala, in the year 2019. Mr. Ramchandra has more than 15 years of industry work experience with various leading global automobile manufacturers such as the Tata Motors, Maruti Suzuki, IFB, etc. Mr. Ramchandra is the startup founder of Amaze Warriors Consulting, where they share their expertise in business strategies and marketing. Mr. Ramchandra has served as the visiting faculty and shared his knowledge on designing, critical thinking, and innovation design at some of the renowned institutes of India, such as the Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Goa, Indian Institute of Management, Visakhapatnam, IIN Somor at Himachal Pradesh, Birla Institute of Technology and Sciences, Pilani, Manipal University at Karnataka, Sanjay Godavat University at Kolhapur, and Goa University. Mr. Ramchandra has shared his expertise at various seminars. He has undergone several training of national and international repute. Mr. Ramchandra is the student mentor for financial literacy in rural government high schools in Goa. Amaze Warriors Consulting is working towards creating innovative business strategies. They provide sales and marketing support to fetch new businesses and or towards the growth of existing businesses. They are also specialized in team bonding and building sessions to motivate the workforce to get out the best in them. With this brief introduction, on behalf of the institution's Innovation Council of Goa University, I welcome Mr. Ramchandra Prabhu Salgaonkar to this session. Over to you, Mr. Ramchandra.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and I hope I am clearly audible. Ma'am, am I audible clearly?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you are audible.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much for such a detailed kind of an intro, and I'm really very fortunate to be among y'all. It's a very fortunate thing for me. I can see a couple of professors over here in this particular session, and whenever I talk to or give a session to the professors, I always get scared and I'm a bit nervous because I learned a lot from all of y'all professors and I'm sharing my knowledge to you all. It makes me feel very, very small. So please excuse me if I make any mistake uh, on or any suggestion. If there are, if at all, I would be happy to receive it from you all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present my screen. So I'm going to put off my video for some time till the screen is shared. and then I will take you all through whatever I have to say about this subject. And then after that, there would be an interaction round, maybe for 5-10 minutes, wherein we can have a question answer session or we can have an interaction. Okay, so please allow me to share my screen. Okay, I just want a confirmation if the screen is visible.
Visible.
Yeah. Okay. So today's topic is about design thinking, critical thinking, and innovation design. It is something to do with a very theoretical aspect, but I personally do not like much of a theory, so I made it as practical as possible in terms of how we can actually understand these different concepts. So if anybody is sending a message for me, means I'm sharing my screen, so I'll have to just toggle my screen. So I will not be able to read it as of now. Okay. So let me start with a simple kind of a opening remarks on innovation, because all these aspects which are there are related to innovation, and this is a very very key element which is there, and we have to all work on it. Everybody says that innovation is important, we have to be innovative, and so on. So let me quote a few examples on what happens if innovation is not there and what happens when you add a bit of innovation. So let me take the first example to this. Now, the watch industry as a whole, that has gone a tremendous downside. And all of us will appreciate that why watch industry is not doing that well is because if I have to ask you the time, probably half of us will see our mobile screens. So we use the mobile to check the time, but that was not originally what was intended. So the watch industry kept doing the things in the same way. Of course, there can be an argument saying that there is Apple Watch and there is digital watch and so on. But the innovation has really not changed the landscape for the watch industry. And that particular market share is eaten by some other product.
Sir,
Yeah,
Ramchandra sir,
yeah,
just just hold.
yeah.
Uh, I request all others to please mute their mic and the video also. Mute their video. Sujata, you just wanted to read something? Sujata?
Professor, can I continue?
Sorry, sir. Uh, can you just start again? Just sorry. Huh?
Okay, you want me to start again? Okay, so anyways, we are talking about innovation. So can I start now?
Hello, you can proceed.
Yeah, okay, fine. So basically, what I'm trying to say over here is that if you don't innovate, then a particular vertical may be in a problem, like the watches. Similar thing you can see in the torch. So previously, most of us must have used a torch maybe around 30, 40, 50 years back, and now it is completely replaced by our mobile again. So whether it was originally intended, mobiles were intended to use like flashlight for torch, purpose of torch, we do not know. But currently, a mobile device which is intended purpose of its intended purpose is something else, gives a competition to a completely different sector kind of equipment, that is a torch. So we can conclude that if you're not going to add innovation or innovation design into your product or whatever you do, you might get obsolete. Now, let us take an example of adding innovation into something like the picture down over here is of IPL. Now, what is the innovation of IPL that they added and how it has benefited? So due to lack of time, if I go for a question answer kind of a thing, it will take a lot of time. So let me just go through this as a one way, and then we can have a discussion. So IPL is pure sports. It's cricket. Previously, cricket was played for 5 days, which is reduced to 50 over matches. And then finally, the IPL comes with 20 over each side. What they have done is they have encroached on the entertainment side of it. What they competed in the initial years is with feature films, because feature films were played normally for 2.5 or 3 hours, rarely around 3.5 hours. IPL matches are approximately of a same size or same time length of around 3 hours. So what has happened is sports has innovated and come into the entertainment slot. Now, this innovation really gave a competition to the feature films. And at one point of time, when initially first, second, third year of IPL, the cinema houses were going empty when IPL matches were being played. So nobody thought that sports and feature films, whether this can be competition with each other. But yes, a lot of innovation was added in IPL matches. Now, let me take another example of lack of innovation, what it can lead to. And I will be talking based on certain numbers. So we can see the blue line, which is there, which is of digital cameras or cameras sold. In around 1970, 1980s, 1985, the digital cameras come, and in somewhere in 2009, the cameras really peaked. 121 million cameras sold. And in next 10 years, something very, very dramatically happens and their sales come crashing down. So I'm talking about the pure cameras which are there. And at the same time, the smartphones really hit the roof. Again, two absolutely non-complementary kind of a products, and the cameras did not anticipate that somebody else or some other equipment will come, innovate itself, and give a competition that the entire industry gets wiped off. Now, of course, there are Canon and Nikon and Sony which are still selling cameras, but not at the scale of which it was originally sold. So innovation is very, very critical in all aspects. Let me show you one video which is of one of the advertisement. Again, a lot of innovation that is added on this. So I'll just play the video for all of us.
The capital of Korea, Seoul, is nicknamed the City of Coffee. There are over 200 Starbucks coffee shops and even more local cafes in Seoul. Even so, the coffee industry is still growing and competition between cafes is becoming even more intense. Dunkin' Donuts projects the image of a donut shop more so than a coffee shop. And as such, other places than Dunkin' most often come to mind when people are looking for a place to have coffee. Mission: encourage people to choose coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. The terrible traffic congestion in Seoul results in people commuting to work primarily via public transportation, on buses and subways. These people are busy, and so they stop by cafes on their way to work. How do we approach these people? Idea: release the aroma of coffee along with radio advertisements. After analyzing the Dunkin' Donuts jingle, we created a machine that releases a coffee aroma. The machine is triggered only by the sound of the Dunkin' Donuts jingle. This jingle was inserted at the top of the Dunkin' Donuts radio ad. When a Dunkin' Donuts ad plays on the radio, a coffee aroma is simultaneously released. Those who noticed the aroma while listening to the ad exhibited some surprised responses. Through positioning, when they exit at their bus stop, they see the Dunkin' Donuts shop in front.
옷값도 끝났어. 유아에는 터키.
이번에 내리는 택시를 기다립니다.
They are much more inclined to make their stop at Dunkin'. Results: more than 350,000 people experienced the ad during the campaign. Visitors increased 16%. Sales of Dunkin' Donuts located by bus stops increased 29%. The ideal result is that people are now starting to think of Dunkin' Donuts when they think of their morning coffee. Coffee and donuts. Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay, so I hope you all have seen the particular ad. And again, the emphasis over here is on the innovation part of it, how innovation was being added, even in advertising and marketing. Okay, so there is one challenge. I'm going to take you through an entire process of what we did in one of the European city as a part of the competition, which was on design thinking. And it is mostly useful to tackle problems that are ill-defined or unknown. Again, something that will come in the practical aspect of what I'm going to share. There is a human factor that is involved is creating personas, and you try to define the persona, and then whatever you're understanding or you're doing, you're trying to superimpose on that particular persona. Design thinking is a 5-stage process, right from emphasize or empathy or understand, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So it's a 5-stage, and this is iterative. So you can go from maybe in a one state line from define, ideate, prototype, and you might have to ideate again. So that is why it is called as an iterative process, and it can have even multiple rounds of different levels that are involved. Now, I will take you through one example of design thinking of how we had done it in one of the challenge that was done. So this competition was called as Innova City, and it was a design thinking workshop in 2021. I'll not give you a detailed kind of a thing because it's a 2 days workshop, and the city that was selected was Debrecen. Now, Debrecen city is the second largest city in Hungary. What they tried to do, the overall problem that was considered in the design thinking workshop was the city of Debrecen had 2 challenges. First, how might we increase the attractiveness of public transportation after COVID? So because of COVID, people were not using the public transport. So how do we actually improve it or increase the attractiveness? And second one was, how might we introduce micro mobility solutions in Debrecen? So these were the global kind of problem statements that were given, and we had to use design thinking process for this to come to a solution. Now, after listening to these problems, we don't directly have to give our solutions, but rather we have to do a particular process. And the process, I'll just go 2 slides back. The process was understand, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So this is the design thinking process. It's a 5-stage process, which now we have to use on the very, very global kind of problem statements that are there. And we want to solve the issues which are there. So how do we proceed on this using design thinking? So of course, this was a 2 days workshop, as I told you, and what they did was they built cross-functional teams and to develop the ideas. Local people were invited, and of course, the experts were also invited for interaction. So this was the way how we proceeded. So micro mobility, for just for your information's sake, is using all these different modes at the endpoints of a particular city. So the first stage, when these global problems were given, what we did was, first phase was understand or emphasize. For this, we had to talk to the local people of Debrecen. So this is the first step in the design thinking process. What we do is we take the feedback and understand the ground realities. In this case, what we did was we tried to understand the issues or the problems from the local residents of Debrecen city. What are different problems they are facing? How the public transport is there? Why are they taking it or why are they not taking it? So we had a one-to-one conversation, and that becomes the first stage of the design thinking process. Expert data analysis was also done. That is also to understand the first stage of the process. After that, what we did was, from this, we created personas. So persona means we try to understand what are the type of people that are probably going to use the public transport and probably understand their pain points, and we try to do the entire analysis. So we try to build persona, which is a very important stage in design thinking process. Okay, before going on to the next slide, so we had to have a understanding of the problem, of what exactly the issue or the problem is being faced. And post that, we came to certain suggestions or ideation. So the next step of the design thinking process was that we had to give suggestions. Now we gave a couple of suggestions. So what was one of the suggestions is that raised micro mobility platforms. So whoever is going to use the micro mobility, maybe scooters or e-scooters or anything, the city of Debrecen has to have a raised platform for them. We have seen these raised platforms in a lot of cities. They are used for walkways and other things. So that is what we suggested as one of the suggestion. Another idea that was given by the team was that use of technology. So they can use smart cards or keyless entries and so on. So that really helps, and you can use technology. Or what you can do is you can actually gamify the last mile. So gamification of last mile means that you can give incentive to the people to use the particular transport. So now, example, if the people are not using the public transport after COVID because they fear that a lot of people will be there, you gamify it. Now, gamification can be earning miles or making them kind of a competition, like how many kilometers each one travels and so on. So this is the ideation phase in which you do a lot of brainstorming and you come with the idea. And then, of course, I'll just show you the steps. Yeah. So, okay. So understand the problem from the local stakeholders and from the experts. Define what are the problems. Then you ideate. We came out with 2 or 3 suggestions. The next step is you do a prototype on it. Means whatever you have ideated, you translate that into a prototype, and the last phase will be the testing phase. So this entire 5-stage process you can implement on any of the issue, and probably it is a structure in which you can come to a particular solution. So the Innova City Design Challenge was, I'm sorry, I can't see any messages which are there. So if you can just read out, or you can interrupt me as well. So what happens is, in this case, you have the design thinking process which is being implemented from end to end in a very, very systematic way. And we went on doing this for not only Debrecen, we were doing this design thinking process for different cities. So each and every city had a particular issue. So we did it for Munich, we did it for Barcelona, we did it for Helsinki. So Helsinki had different types of challenges in terms of the local transportation. So local transportation, the people were not using it at all. So it was not because of the COVID-19 situation, but people didn't want to use it. So what we do is we use the same methodology of design thinking. We try to understand the feedback of the people, why they are acting in a particular way or why they're not doing it, defining the problems to a finer details, ideating, prototyping, and testing. So any ill-fated or any issue which you are facing, we can actually drive it down through the design thinking process, and it gives a very, very clear kind of a solution. At least the methodology that is used is very, very tested, and you can use it for any kind of problem. So this is the design thinking methodology, which I had to explain to you using one particular case, that is of Innova city and the city of Debrecen. Now going on to the next part, one last feedback was that our team which was there was a team that comprised of various different people from various parts of the world. So I was there from India, of course, and there was one European, there were people from Southeast Asia and all. So the kind of thought process that went into that was completely different. So whenever we are doing the design thinking process, one thing that we can ensure that we can have multidisciplinary teams. Now, let us take a very small kind of a thing wherein we have something to do at the university or some problem that we have to tackle. We can have teams from multidisciplinary teams from different faculties that we can have, so that the thought process is not skewed. Whatever I was saying, the Southeast Asian person was completely saying something very, very different. So you get a complete different perspective to the thought process as well. Now, going on to the next part of critical thinking. Now, critical thinking is the method of analyzing ideas, concepts, or data collected to evaluate the situation from a different perspectives and arrive at an unbiased optimal solution. Now, this is a typical kind of a you can say definitions, but they make a lot of sense when you go into the practical applications of this. They make a lot of sense, and I'm going to take one very, very interesting example for this as well. A critical thinker can anticipate the consequence of certain actions in advance. So it is like I would say playing chess. So playing when a person plays a chess, you don't have to only think what you are going to play, but also what your opponent might play. And all those moves you have to anticipate well in advance. Let me take one example over here. I'm very sure some of you all must have already read this, or you must have gone through this. But and anybody has seen this, or anybody has read about this? Okay, fine. So the red spots on this particular aircraft, these spots are actually the gunshots or the bullet marks of the for the planes that came back from the World War II. This was actually the analysis, detailed analysis that was undertaken in the World War II. So we are using this for the understanding of critical thinking. Now, what they did was they analyzed where the maximum number of bullet marks or gunshots were there. And the picture with red spots, those were the ones with maximum number of gunshots. So can anybody tell me what could be the possible solution for this? How can you solve this particular problem or the issue? No, I can't read the comments. I have to toggle the switch. So just if somebody can give a feedback, one person who has actually sent the message. Okay, let me just. Okay. Okay, the thing was completely different. Okay, so these were the gunshots that were there on the planes that were returning to the base. So there were experts who were hired and they tried to do the analysis and all. And finally, they concluded that whatever gunshots, wherever the maximum number of gunshots were there, let us have more reinforcement or protection to those particular areas. So they try to cover with more metal or heavy metal to avoid the damage to the plane. But there is another angle to this. So the critical thinking in this case failed. The reason was that because if you see this minutely, there are places on the aircraft where there are no gunshots available at all. That means those were the aircrafts which never came back. That means whatever was shot in that particular area, that aircraft had to that aircraft was destroyed. Now, applying the critical thinking method to this, what had to be done is they had to be seen and analyze each and every aspect of it, which probably was missed. And that is something that we commonly do. What we do is we try to do it in a very, very narrow kind of a way in which we immediately come to a solution. The immediate solution in this case was that reinforce the parts wherein the gunshots were maximum. But using critical thinking, if they are to use the critical thinking methodology, all the possible solutions and all the possible outcomes should have been analyzed, which were probably missed. And they did something which was exactly the opposite. Actually, if you go to see, the places where there were no gunshots, those were the places wherein the maximum reinforcement or maximum protection was needed. And that is something which we commonly do. So we try to come out with a solution and we do not solve the core problem in this particular bargain. So this is a very classic example from World War II, wherein using critical thinking, if they had used, they could have come to a completely different solution and probably saved many aircrafts, and it would have been very, very efficient. Now, one last example that I would like to take is something very, very recent. And again, I'm coming back to the methodology of design thinking, critical thinking, and how it is being used in one of the aspects. So does anybody know what the photograph depicts? So there are three different types of cards. There's debit, there's credit, and there's a prepaid card. So anybody who has come across wherein what does this depict? Anybody who would like to say anything? Okay, so let us take a fundamental problem of, say, a particular card which is there. Of course, each and every one of us will have multiple cards in their wallet, and all the cards are similar rectangular size, whether it is debit or whether it is credit or whether it is a prepaid card. Now, it is very difficult unless we really read very minutely whether it's a debit card or a credit card. So you can make out only when you can read on the particular card, and of course whether it can be used for internationally or nationally, everything is being written. But there is a problem when it comes to blind people. So the blind people, they don't actually can't read. So there has to be something which is there on the card which can help them. And this actually came out of a design thinking and a critical thinking process, that you have to add a certain aspect on the cards, and MasterCard is actually using this so that the blind can easily recognize which type of card is being handed out. So a particular groove mark for a debit card, a particular groove mark for the credit card, and of course a particular groove mark for the prepaid card. And this was done by going through several times through the different methodologies which are there, including the design thinking methodology, by using the first step, that is understanding what are the issues that are there, then defining the finer problem, then coming to the ideation. So what we normally tend to do is, once we have an issue, we directly come to the brainstorming part. We miss out the critical first two elements. First is emphasizing, and of course, once the ideation is done, we have to test it, and you have to build a prototype. So these are very, very important. Prototype building will ensure that you have solved and tackled the particular issue. So going back again to the design thinking methodology, which is there, you can understand and you can tackle any type of a problem using this particular methodology, and it's a very, very well defined kind of a process. So with this uh, feedback, I would like to have a discussion with you all. In case anybody has any questions or anything to share, I would be happy to take it.
Hello, could I ask you a question, Ramchand?
Yeah, please.
Ramchand, so you all participated in that particular event, right? So, what was the final solution that was drawn besides the platform? What were other solutions that people came up with? Any idea?
Okay. So there were several teams that were participating. Now I will give you the example of the Helsinki challenge, in which one of the team came up with a very, very unique kind of a solution, and it was, we could see it coming from the particular design thinking workshop. What they did was, if say you're using the Google Maps, say you want to go from Panaji, so all of us say are in Panaji, and we want to travel to say Pune, we just put Panaji and a final destination, that is Pune, and we come to know all the possible ways how we can go there. Probably it will show us cars, it will show us the distance, whether you can take a train, whether you can take a bus. But two important aspects that we normally shortlist or select. One is, how much time do we need to go? So from here to Pune, probably we take 10 hours or 9 hours. That is something of interest to us. Second important aspect that is there is, how much will it cost us? So probably some kind of a cost was shown. But the Helsinki team actually came out with a third parameter. And the third parameter was carbon footprints. So this was the team when of course it was not my team. So what came is, what they wanted to show to people out of the design thinking solution of theirs is that whenever you select point A and point B, first they would get how much time they would reach. Second, they would say how much cost that would be involved. And third, they showed carbon footprints, which is not there on Google Maps even now. So that would be the incentive for the people to use the public transport. That is what they said. So of course, time is one of the incentives, money is one of the incentives, but carbon footprints is something that Helsinki team, the public transport in Helsinki, Finland, is implementing, so that people are incentivized to use the public transport because they will have lesser carbon footprints. So this is one of the things that came out from the design thinking workshop.
Thanks, nice.
So anybody has any other question? So I try to keep the theory at a minimum, because theories are all available. So it will I don't know how far it can. Okay, yeah, there's one hand. Yes, sir, please.
Yes, sir. This is Akash Kulkarni. I wanted to ask, sir, what has your experience been in implementing it at any of your clients' design thinking? I'm assuming a lot of places they'll have a very traditional mindset where they won't be open to change. So there, how you got them to adopt a new approach?
Okay, so see the first three stages till ideation, there can be any number of ideas and any kind of ideas. So that is something which you really can't control. But what happens is in the prototype stage, so we give an idea that, okay, raise the platforms. It's a very simple thing for us. Then actually we have to go and talk to the Debrecen City Municipal Council and convince them of this particular suggestion. But then they came with their own set of challenges and ideas and cost and all the related things. So in terms of practicality of the application, that will be taken care in the prototype stage. And of course, then there's the testing, which is completely different. But a few things get ironed out in the prototype stage, which probably is not done in the first three stages of design thinking process. Gaston Dias, sir, you have raised your hand.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm a retired from New York University actually.
Okay.
Since there are so many professors and so many intellectuals joining together on a session wherever, whatever program you'll have abroad, do we have a brainstorming in a certain element where a person can be, appraised, like in what he's critically thinking? Thank you.
No, I did not understand the question.
Okay, my question is once again, like you have 10 professors probably on a project, and do you have a brainstorming to come to a conclusion?
Okay. Okay. So if I understand the question correctly, so we had a multidisciplinary team. Now, multidisciplinary team. So what they had done I'm taking a very skewed kind of an example of one particular design thinking contest which was there. So they tried to put one person from each geography. So there was one European, there was one Asian, there was one Southeast Asian, one person from America, and so on. So what they tried to do is they told us one thing, that please do not jump to the final conclusion first only. Don't start ideating. Don't start brainstorming and coming to a conclusion. Rather, let us follow the process. And that is what is design thinking and critical thinking process. So there is a particular way in which it has to be done. Now, once the first two steps were done, that is understanding whatever issues were there from the locals. There is no brainstorming involved in that. Probably you'll have to talk to the locals and to the experts, then defining the finer issues or a problem. And then when it came to the ideation stage, there was a lot of brainstorming, wherein each and every stakeholder or each and every person contributed. And they example for me, I was giving a perspective to them, a very Asian perspective. So a couple of things, like if I was there in the Helsinki team and they had to tell me carbon footprints and all, I would have told them, sorry, nobody in India actually will go for the third option. But in the Scandinavian country, yes, it makes a lot of sense to them. So in the ideation phase, there was a lot of brainstorming that happened, and we concluded or we removed the best possible ideas from the pool of ideas through brainstorming. So I don't know whether I have answered your question, but this is what I have to say about what you had asked.
Yes, thank you so much. I understand. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else has any kind of a question or any feedback or anything they have to tell?
Anybody has any questions? conclude this function. Thank you so much, sir, for this enlightening and informative talk. To summarize the session, our speaker, Mr. Ramchandra Prabhu Saudakar, founder of Amaze Warriors Consulting, spoke about importance of innovation to prevent day-to-day things from becoming obsolete, taking examples of Indian Premier League and smartphones. Also, he talked about design thinking process and various stages involved. Sir also explained about critical thinking by giving analogy about the bullet-ridden plane from World War II. We are very thankful for this engaging session, sir. Thank you so much once again. I think Gaston
Okay.
Alfred has raised a hand. So
No,
I think he asked the
he has
question.
already.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity and hearing me out. And I hope to have more engaging sessions with the IIC. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir, definitely. Thank you, sir.
Hello. All of you, please fill the feedback form. Okay.
Okay, sir.
I have sent feedback form on email also. Bye bye. Thank you for attending session. All the best.